I'm here with Dan Hooker. Dan, clearly, you guys are fired up. What should these people expect tomorrow night?
Let's go, but I love it. Bring it on.
Did that surprise you, though, that he actually headbutted you?
Nah, who gives a shit? Like, we're both like, you can't expect to say nasty things and to get in people's faces, and not expect anything to come firing back. It's like, that's part of it's a fight business. That's part of it. You know what I mean?
You tried to scare him, which leads me to believe. Actually, I want to ask you this. Do you think that you're in his head? Just judging by his reaction at the weigh-ins, do you think that you've gotten into his head with a little bit of the verbal jabs you've thrown his way?
Nah, I got what I wanted. I wanted to see if he was rattled. You know, it's I got what I wanted. Like, I wanted a reaction. I got one. And I jumped right ahead of the line because I took a fight that no one else wanted to fight. I could see that no one between me and Arman, like no one wanted to fight this kid for some reason.
And you chased it down.
I jumped at the opportunity. I went and nagged the UFC for this opportunity. So
hostility exists between you and your opponent. Explain to me what just happened during face-off. Did Dan instigate that headbutt, or was that you?
No, he tried to scare me, but no one can scare me. 25 minutes, but now I wanna make him so tired and just cut his whole face and don't finish him too early. So I wanna like get his life, you know, like make him like hard damage. That's my goal now, right now.
I love this shit. Let's go.
yeah, obviously there's bad blood. I feel like he's come in and been pretty like since he first came into the UFC, he's just kind of discredited me as a fighter and things that I've done, and that's his own opinion. But and there's just been back and forth over the years. And so I'd love to get in there and fight him. It's just things that he's done in the past. You know, he's just like a lippy little rich kid that's had everything handed to him in his life, and he thinks he can go around and like it's like, I'm just saying, if there's a repeat, like there's a video of him walking up on Bobby Green and like getting in his face like before the fight, and obviously doesn't need the money from these UFC fights. You know what I mean? He does this for attention and Instagram likes. Like, he doesn't fight to feed his family. Like, I fight to provide for my family. Bobby Green provides for his family through fighting. So him coming up in his face, obviously Bobby Green's not gonna lash out and he's gonna keep it professional.
Who you got, man? You win.
That doesn't scare me.
What?
No. I've been through worse, trust me. Even if you cut me, Arman, I don't care.
Who you got, man? You win.
He's pushing actually really hard. Why doesn't Hamzat like you? No, he does.
Alright, 20-second video. So, my dear viewer, you may be very confused on why I put in 3 minutes of footage that was not my own, and that is because all those clips I showed are related to this video in some way. And let me explain why. You know, as I was walking my dogs today, a topic on my mind was how that UFC press conferences are now the most boring things on the planet. It's like watching paint dry. Or Islam versus JDM. I joke, right? But in all seriousness, right, I thought to myself, why are these press conferences so boring? It's because they don't say shit. All they do is answer dumbass media questions that are asked by literal bots. You hear the same damn questions all the time. And they're up there sounding like AI. It's like if text-to-speech was ChatGPT or something. And Dana White, how does it feel to be back in Las Vegas? Or my personal favorite, excuse me, Islam Makhachev, how was the weight cut? I mean, you know, stupid shit like that. But in point, basically, the press conferences are missing things that are actually, like, you know, human and authentic. And instead, it just sounds like a dialogue exchange of you ordering a Big Mac from McDonald's. I digress, right? Point is, these press conferences are missing trash talk, genuine animosity. You know what I mean? It's missing the WWE aspect, I like to call it. And I used to actually not like trash talk before. Funny enough, because I was pro like fake Dagestani, right? The brother, you have to be humble, brother. This is not about the trash talk, brother. But then, you know, they trash talk literally every other fighter. But anyway, point being, right, back to the point, right? People would actually talk a lot of shit to each other back then, I think. And it was fun, but I think, but then the mainstream happened. MMA YouTube became more popular. MMA content on social media became more popular. And what always gets the most views, what is guaranteed a lot of views, it's always those videos of people who are little NPCs made by NPC channels. And then it's like, when trash talking goes wrong, or fighter talks trash, lives to regret it, like some fucking Darman shit or something. And those videos always got a lot of likes. And so those fighters that talk trash would be known by the media as that one guy who got smoked or lost literally. I mean, example would be like Alexander Hernandez. I mean, he got head kicked by Cowboy Cerrone, and you still have fucking people that don't like him for that one reason. But anyway, point is, right, again, literally did not matter if the fight was competitive. The only thing that mattered was they were a fighter who said a couple of mean things, and they got humbled, and they got humbled, brother, even though they are already swinging shots at each other. You know, that it reminds me of like this, right? It's like the great Dominic Cruz said one time.
We're fighting, so when you're in a fight with somebody, when they're talking about taking your head off and knocking you out in 2 rounds and not giving you any respect whatsoever, you know, with that, I got mad and I said what I wanted to say back. It wasn't about disrespect. It's just about we're getting into a fight. And to me, that doesn't make me a bad role model. It doesn't make me a bad person. I'm going in there to hit this guy, punch him in the face, you know. It's a fight. I'm sorry I didn't say kind things all the time, but it's a fight. He didn't exactly do very kind things to me in there, and I didn't do very kind things to him back, so forgive me for my mean words.
As you see right there, a lot of people now don't like to talk trash because they don't want to be associated with a negative stigma just in case they lose. And it makes it really lame because, like, they're already going to swing at each other, win or lose. So it's just like, who cares about a few words said? Not like they're saying slurs or being offensive, which reminds me why I am excited for this upcoming fight. Dan Hooker versus Arman Tsarukyan. I love this fight for many reasons. But the first reason why I do is because I love fights that have actual beef. Or by the way, sorry about that. I thought my audio was not recording. But anyway, but back to our scheduled program. And just in case my cousin is watching this, I don't mean beef where they just say a couple of naughty words to each other, like they're children who barely figured out what bad words are. You know, like a Call of Duty lobby where they're just saying a bunch of fucking bad words. You know, fuck you, bitch. You know, you're this, you're that. I mean, it's just like, I mean, congratulations, mate. You know what a bad word is. Like, congratulations, you're no better than a fucking Call of Duty Modern Warfare lobby, you know what I mean? But anyways, I mean genuine beef, like Arman and Dan have. Dan has been calling out Arman for a while now, and as you saw from the clips, that I provided, they have had genuine problems with each other, and I think that makes for an exciting fight. And now that I discuss why I love this fight in a story perspective, now I'm going to discuss why I like it in actual fight perspective. And that's because I think it's a very contrast of styles here on the surface. It seems like we have the classic, on the surface, it seems we have the classic striker versus grappler matchup, which on the surface level, I completely agree. That's pretty much what it boils down to, right? But if we dive a little deeper into this iceberg of how these two fighters fight, it's very interesting because to start off, we have Dan Hooker is pretty much a striker slash boxer. He has pretty decent boxing and solid kicks. I think his overall striking is just super solid. I wouldn't say any part of his strikes he's really amazing at, rather than his boxing is the most effective, but that's pretty much it. Another thing I'd say other than the boxing, I would say stands out about him, I would just say he's a very overall pretty solid striker, right? But it's simple, but it's effective. That knee that everyone glazed him for, I've only seen him actually catch that one guy 20 years ago, and I've never seen him actually punish someone with it while they shot a takedown, Unlike Barboza, for example, when he killed Benny with a flying knee, when Barboza generally killed Benny with that flying knee as Benny shot for a takedown. But that doesn't mean it's bad for sure. Dan Hooker is just a complete scrapper, not only on the stand-up, I also say on the ground. I think Dan Hooker's grappling is actually pretty underrated. I don't think I've ever seen him really get out grappled by anyone other than Makhachev. But as we seen last weekend, could be arguably one of the best fighters we have seen, period. So I can't exactly hold him to that. But I will say, he should definitely not plan a grapple for long periods of time with Arman. That's definitely not the game plan. And I mean, again, people forget, man, right? He had a very competitive showing against Islam Makhachev, Arman did, right? The best overall grappler or one of them, right, the sport's ever seen. And not only that, Arman has been doing a shit ton of grappling matches as of recently, so I don't favor Dan engaging with that for long periods of time. Arman submitted one default creative fighter in his first grappling match. I mean, I don't know who he is, but then submitted Patricio Pitbull and Benson Henderson, which those guys' jiu-jitsu is pretty solid, especially if they're engaging in a sport just based on pure grappling. And Arman has also trained with Hamzat Chimaev. I say trained and not train because I'm unsure if he still does, to be honest, and I don't feel like checking right now. But anyway, point is, right, on paper, you would assume that Arman should just easily smoke Dan, and as I look through MMA YouTube, that's pretty much the general consensus. All I see is pretty much that, right? I see no one really going with Dan, but you know what? I'm gonna be the crafty YouTube vet like I am with only 22 videos as of right now, and I am picking Dan, and I'll explain why. I have seen that Arman from interviews is a bit more upset with Dan in particular because of all the antics Dan has been doing to Arman, calling him out on social media, now trying to scare him. Arman's saying that apparently he was trying to scare him in the weigh-ins. And Arman said that when you try to scare him, he will make sure he hits you or some shit like that. That's why he headbutted Dan Hooker, right? So it seems that Dan is already in his head, whether he admits it or not. Now, will this affect his performance? I'm going to say yes. Now, am I saying will he win because of it? I can't confirm or deny that as of right now. But regardless of what people say, right, okay, I am more than certain it's going to affect his performance. And Arman Tsarukyan, listen, man, when you grow up rich, you don't exactly have to struggle with anything. And I'm not saying that's bad, great job. Listen, great job on the kid, But I would just say, as a person like myself who didn't exactly have a very struggling, I didn't really struggle in terms of financial status. And I can confirm when you don't have to deal with certain stressors, when you eventually have to deal with those stressors because, they will come your way eventually, you're going to be put in your territory you are not comfortable in, and in such as you have been when you're used to something your whole life and then you're put out of that, and it's a bit different, and no one makes things more tougher than Dan Hooker. When you are having a scrap, Dan, I think if he just goes forward at the proper distance between Arman, he should be able to see those takedowns, walk forward, give Arman no respect, again, always pressure to negate the takedown threat, and shorter fighter Arman with a combination of strikes and threaten the guillotine. I think that's really gonna save him this fight. When he fought Matus, I think people did not give him a credit for Dan doing this to negate the constant wrestling attempts of Gamrot, forcing Gamrot to really address that guillotine. And I don't mean that. And when I say guillotine, I really don't. I think people always assume people think that, oh, what are you trying to say? Submit him with a guillotine? No, I'm not saying that. It's the same thing with grapplers going against strikers. I mean, they tell them to strike on the feet. That doesn't mean they're going to exactly finish them on the feet, but, give them something else to worry about pretty much. And that's what I think Dan Hooker's going to have to do with that guillotine, and I think he could do it very well, right? But point is, right, I don't mean to be that guy, but Charles had a really tight guillotine on Arman for shooting. And I'm not saying they're the same with the guillotine offense. I'm just saying Arman has shown to be able to be put in that kind of position. So I think Dan should not shy away from threatening with a front choke as Arman attempts a sloppy takedown. And who knows, honestly, even fucking go for it. If he feels like he's got it, that's another thing too, because I feel like when the grappler outstrikes the striker, no one bats an out, right? Or knocks him out because everyone's just like, oh, the takedown threat. But what about the stand-up threat? You know what I mean? Why can't Dan Hooker guillotine Arman if he's so worried about the striking? If he's so worried about the striking, he shoots a bad takedown, Dan Hooker could really finish that fucking guillotine, man. He has a pretty goddamn good guillotine, right? Or a front choke, or whatever you want to call it, right? I think the best, basically what I'm saying is ultimately the takedown is after, you know, well, point is, right, Arman would attempt a sloppy takedown after the threat and being pressured by Arman. So ultimately, right, I said the game plan for Dan, use that longer frame to stay in distance, but pressure, don't get backed up. Use your offense for Arman to get him comfortable. Shoot back takedowns because he's gonna do it eventually, and threaten with uppercuts and knees and guillotines, or just sprawl them and get back to the pressure. Since Arman has shown to, you know, to wilt with constant pressure against Gamrot, who did offer him a lot of resistance. Look, I'm not saying Armin's soft or anything. It's just that when you're used to a certain level of comfort, the stressors that come with high pressure situations like this can be a little different to handle. I mean, nobody's perfect when they're thrown into new territory, right? I can relate to this since I didn't, you know, like I said, once again, I didn't struggle financially in terms of my life. You know, my parents, my mom was very decent off, right? You know, I came from middle class, so it's just human nature to have a bit of adjustment period when faced with something you've never experienced before. But I think that's pretty much it, guys. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the breakdown. If you like the content, I'm very tired. This took a lot of time staring at a screen. But if you like the content, leave a like, subscribe, tell me who you think is going to win in the comments below, and let me know why, of course. And again, man, I guess just to add up the final notes, I think Dan Hooker, if he uses that scrappy forward pressure boxing mixed with decently timed punches, I would recommend not kicking too often. In this one, I think just the boxing / maybe knees with maybe like head kicks. I think the only thing I would say if he was planning to kick is definitely you would have to sit him with punches. He can't just throw raw naked ones like as MMA Chase said, that one YouTuber, right? I don't throw kicks against the grappler if you suck at kicking. So Dan Hooker, you know, he's been taken down with a few kicks, right? So I just wouldn't really recommend it at all. But if he wants to, he could definitely set it up by the end of combinations, right? You know, I think, right? But anyways, again, I think Dan Hooker is really going to surprise a lot of people. I really do, man. And if he isn't, oh well, right? You know, as Dan Hooker says, you know, he's been beat up before. I've been wrong before, so I don't care. I'm certain Dan Hooker's going to win this one. So if that's it, pretty much. Thank you guys for listening to the Craftiest MMA Vet on YouTube, and